This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org here in London, England, and I'm joined by the one and only Carrie Ann Mendoza of the Scriptonite Daily blog. Now, Carrie Ann has a very interesting Start Join project that you're launching that I think is really noteworthy. So can you tell us the behind-the-scenes story of what made you start this project? What's happening here that made you launch this very, very interesting project?
So we basically have a mayor of London called Boris Johnson and a police commissioner, Bernard Hogan-Howe, who have concocted a plan to have water cannon dispatched on London streets. They asked the people of London, they said no. They asked the Home Secretary, Theresa May, she said no. They went to Germany and bought the things anyway. Wow. So they're actually in the process of buying 3 water cannon from the German police to be deployed on British streets by the end of this summer. So we figure if Boris and his metropolitan police can have 3 water cannon, surely the British people can have 1 for themselves. So we started this Start Join /cannon fodder project called the People's Water Cannon. It's kind of a light-hearted way of pointing to a really serious issue, which is, you know, this increasing militarisation of our domestic police force. You know, they're deploying, you know, the kettle, tasers, tear gas, water cannon. These are the kind of weapons, all in these black uniforms, that you would expect of an occupying military, not a domestic police force.
Yeah. And they have been very militarized within the last recent years, and the military is there to fight an enemy, not to police and to keep law and order. Let's also not forget about the new drones that they have launched in the U.S. That shoot pepper spray at you and tasers. But now, I was always interested in what is the social economic kind of situation here that kind of leads the mayor of London to want water cannons, because that is very perplexing.
Well, in the last year, in the last 12 months, more than 1 million British people actually had to rely on emergency food aid to eat. Wow. That's the level of poverty that now exists in the UK. In fact, a report came out just today that was saying that poverty is now twice as common in the UK as it was 30 years ago. So we're talking about, you know, we were growing up in the 80s. That has actually, even though the economy has grown twice, 3 times, poverty has grown twice. So you have this sense of the economy is increasingly existing to serve an ever narrower group of people, while an ever broader group of people serve that economy. It's really crazy, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is pretty much the biggest it's ever been in this country. We're talking bigger than the feudal system. We had the University of California, Davis, recently produced a report. It revealed that the level of social mobility has been unbroken. Pretty much, they thought it was like a physical law, that basically there was a social mobility of 5% every year, year on year, regardless of the economic system. And in the last 30 years, they broke that trend. A 1,000-year trend actually went into reverse, wow. Which it gives you just the scale of the issue in terms of how defunct and broken and inefficient this economic system is.
So they're pretty much robbing you blind.
Completely. That's the short version. They're nicking our stuff.
Very, very well said. Being in Europe, I've noticed a lot of political movements, I feel like a sense of people who are, anxious, that they want to do something, they want to get politically involved, that there needs to be a change, that there's going to be some kind of head-to-head bump, I think, in the near future. How does it look here politically with activism? What is your sense of where people are at right now, and where do you think it's going?
I think we're in this strange kind of gap at the moment, because you had the Occupy movement and we had the student movement, which both were enormous and passionate and powerful, statements of activism and protest in 2010-11, and both of them were brutally put down by the police and also co-opted by the media. So the media came along and said these are troublemakers, and actually the kind of public sentiment turned against Occupy and turned against the student movement. So there was a kind of a feeling of, what are we even doing this for? We're going out, we're getting beaten up by the police, and then we come home and we're getting beaten up by our communities that we're trying to make a stand for. And a lot of protesters actually switched from activism as in protest to activism as in like practical activism. They started setting up community gardens and time banks and co-ops and kind of grassroots movements. And so you're now starting to see a bit of the fruition of that, because instead of this just social media driven oh, we've got an idea, stuff's bad. You've actually got this incredibly dynamic group of people that are all networking and communicating, that are actually starting to build those alternative, you know, mechanisms of economics and politics and currency that we're actually going to need when this one collapses. And that's why I think, to some degree, if you're not watching closely, I think you're missing a lot of the kind of nuances of what's going on. So it's all kind of quite quiet. But you can feel this sense of momentum as these incredibly kind of innovative movements start coming together.
Instead of just finding a problem, it's about creating a solution and moving away from the problem. Very similar stories in New York City with Occupy Wall Street. I was there from day one till the last day. The media slandered and lied, and the police beat everybody up. But now you're kind of seeing a new resistance, which is really, really interesting. Now, one last thing about the water cannons. How much are they paying for? How much is the mayor of London paying for these water cannons, and what kind of deal are you getting?
Well, they're paying around £220,000 for 3. And we've found that you can get a water cannon, might not be as flashy as Boris's, but you can get a water cannon for around £30,000. So we're on Start Join Cannon Fodder for 30k, and we're hoping to get that funding by the end of the month so that we can, you know, give Boris a bit of a run for his money.
Awesome. The link will be in the description below. Carrie Ann Mendoza, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to click subscribe.